The Truth Girls.
Hi everyone, it's Truther Girl Sonia here. Can I tell you something? Back in the day, I never used to say hi. I never used to have any kind of intro to my video. And people said to me, why don't you say hi? And why don't you say bye? So I started doing it, but I've always felt weird about it. What's so hard about saying hi? Like every time I make a video, I think saying hi is the hardest part. Okay, so let's just pretend I didn't say hi. So today I wanted to tell you a story. I went panhandling. It's not what you think. I'm not desperate, no. I went panhandling with my pastor. Sounds even worse. It was a spiritual exercise though. My pastor, well, one of the pastors, because I'm taking this course through my church, and so one of the things we had to do was go panhandling because we're learning about like compassion and I don't know, I guess what it's like to be someone else, or what it's like to be in a bad situation. Because sometimes, you know, when you want to do things for other people, you do it the way you think that you should do it, or like what would make sense to you, but you don't really know what they need because you really don't understand their perspective. So the goal here was to get us to understand more. And I was thinking, you know, whatever we do, we're not really going to understand because we're not really in that kind of need. But, you know, maybe we'll learn something about what it's like to have to stand outside and ask for money. And so, first of all, I was so nervous about going out. It was like I was just, like super, super anxious. Because what was I going to say, and what was I going to do, and what was going to happen? And worst of all, what if somebody sees me? If you do something like that, the person that sees you is going to be like the last person you want to see you. The one that you really don't want, and that's how it goes, right? So I was thinking, oh no, like I'm sure something, you know, is gonna happen. Anyway, so I was trying not to be nervous, so I tried to make it fun, so I uglied up my pastor because she looked way too healthy. I had to put white powder and like, because I was like, listen, you just don't look like you belong out there at all. You look like you've been eating vegetables. You're supposed to be poor. You shouldn't be able to afford such nutritious vegetables that give you this great complexion. So I made her look a little more ashen, and we went out, and I realized that I was going to have to do something to get through this. And so she went and sat down very humbly and like put out a cup. And she's very beautiful, and she's young, you know, she's just sitting there with her long hair. She's just holding the little cup, you know, spare some change, like that, very humble. And me, I realized that the only way I could cope with something that uncomfortable was to sort of put on a character. So I started being like Anita, kind of. And I started going like, spare some change for an out-of-work stripper. Help me pay for some Botox. I just, whatever I could think of. And at first I think I was talking like, spare some change. I was even doing this really ugly face. I was like, want to help me out? I need stuff I can't afford. You know, and then after a while, I lost the voice, and I saw that people were sort of responding to the humor in it, though. And I wasn't doing it to make fun of panhandlers. I was doing it to cope, and I realized actually that, you know, there people deal with that, having to ask. They deal with it in different ways. Some people will sit there very humbly. Some people will be kind of aggressive. Give me money. I need some change. You know, is that all you got? And some people will use humor. You know, like Toby the panhandler, who would have a sign that said too ugly for prostitution, you know, that kind of thing. And I realized that I guess I'm in the humor category. That was all I could do to deal with it. So I learned something about myself in that way, or about panhandling, about the situation, that sometimes, you know, you draw on whatever you have in your personality to cope with the bad situation, and for me that's humor. So that was pretty authentic. So I was doing this, and I was saying whatever came into my mind. I pulled out my phone. Where is it? It's so bad. I was like, spare change to help me upgrade to a smartphone so I can go on Facebook. Look, it's so bad. I was showing people my phone, and they were laughing, you know, and they're like, here's a quarter. You're on your way. Spare change to get me to Playa del Carmen. Spare change for my vacation. Spare change so I can get my nails done. Oh my God, it's so disgusting. Oh. Spare change so I can get my legs waxed. I'm very hairy. Like I was asking them for things for like all kinds of stuff, and they were laughing, like they were smiling, and you know what? I just I just love to make people laugh. I feel there's so much connection there through humor. It just sort of takes the edge off everything in life to just share a laugh with someone. And you know, I ended up having such a good time doing it. Like at first I was like, oh, I can't do this. And after a while I was like, spare change for plastic surgery so I can look hot again. Whatever I said, you know, I just had so much fun. And I just realized that I just really like people. I love people, and I love to make people laugh, and I like to see people smile. And it made me feel so encouraged about people, about humanity. You know, when you're out there and you're like interacting with so many people and you just see their face like soften a little, you see a little smile, or they give you a quarter and don't worry, I gave the money to someone else after. And you see that and you just know that they're good people. Most people are, they have a good heart. You know, we hear so many things about, people are so bad and this group and that group. But, you know, fundamentally, I think as human beings, I think most people, I mean, we're all sinners, you know, but I think most people have a good heart. They're not horrible monsters, horrible bastards, horrible people. Most people, they're good people, you know. And I felt really sort of so happy to be able to see that in them. I see the good, you know. I see the good in people. It was, in the end, it was very encouraging for me. I was just like, wow, people are good, you know. They're not mean. Nobody's saying horrible, mean things to me. They could have, but nobody was doing that. Because you're so vulnerable out there. You're asking people for change. I have a horrible time asking for anything. And I'm out there, spare quarter so I can go to Mexico. You know, I mean, obviously it was ridiculous what I was saying, but I think that they thought I was really panhandling. And then none of them were mean, you know. And somehow I just felt so much love for them. I love you all. You're wonderful. You know? Up with humanity. It was cool. And the other thing was there were a couple of people who came up to me who were obviously actual street people or drug addicts or something. And one of them, what did I say? I said, please help me pay for my Botox so I can get a job as a stripper. I'm sagging. Like, help me out, something like that. These guys came up to me and they're like, what do you want? Money for what? I said, you know, Botox to fix my face so I don't look old. Anyway, I told these guys I wanted Botox so I could be a stripper. And one of them was like, I have a stripper pole in my basement. And I'm like, well, unless you're going to sell it and give me the money, it's not going to pay for my Botox, is it? And they were like, we like to do coke. You want to come and party with us? And I was like, ugh, no. And I got weirded out and I was like, I don't know, you just felt this darkness. Like the drugs really bring this darkness, dark energy into your life. Like it's something really evil. I mean, it really disconnects you from the person that you're meant to be. Maybe they wouldn't have been, you know, model citizens without the drugs, but I'm sure they would have been better. Anyway, it was dark. I felt like I came in contact with something really dark. And then another couple of guys came up to me and one had a joint and he offered me the joint and I was like, no thanks, I don't. And the other one was like, do you do drugs? And I said, no. And he said, well, do you want to start? Because we do drugs. You want to come with us? And I was just like, who would come with them? You know, no, thanks. I don't want to. It was weird. And it also made me really grateful that that's not me, you know. Because, you know, some of you know my story. When I was in my 20s, I did do drugs. Although I wasn't like that, but, you know, I was a functional addict, whatever, in university and everything. But still, you know, it's all the same. I could have been, because we were young, you know, when you're young and good looking, it's different than, I mean, it feels different, it looks different than when you're 45 and you're still like bumming around the street like, hey, you want to get a bag and your teeth are all screwed up. When you're a beautiful 25-year-old girl and you do a line, it's like, oh, let's get her high and maybe she'll be more fun. When you're like older, it's like, oh, what a washed up old bag, you know, it becomes like disgusting the older you get. Sorry to say, but it's true, you know. I guess the youth and the beauty sort of masks some of the uglier reality that's underneath. And for the person doing it too, I think they're not as honest with themselves about how destructive it is, because they look in the mirror and they're like, I still look pretty good. So anyway, I was really grateful that I got out of that, like, really in time. I felt bad for those people, and I just thought, like, how complex their problems are, and how the only hope for them would be for God to come into their lives and rebuild them from the inside out. So that was my experience. Nothing bad happened. Oh, something else funny though. So I'm there standing around asking for change, spare change, spare change. And my neighbor, one of my neighbors comes by, and I was like, oh, it's so embarrassing. So I go up to him, I'm like, oh, hey, Sean. I was like, it's not what it looks like. I'm just out here, I'm out here with my pastor. She's over there. And then I'm like, oh, that sounds really bad. Like, I'm panhandling with my pastor. And he's like, what kind of church do you go to? And I'm like, well, it's just a regular church. It's just like a spiritual exercise. And he's like, sure, you know. And mental note, oh, Sonia must be off the wagon or something. So embarrassing. And his wife is kind of a little uppity, you know. Like, I like her, but she obviously doesn't want to get to know me, like, even when I'm not panhandling. And every time I try to talk to her, she'd be like, you know, people sometimes when they're really polite, but they're kind of like, yeah. It's like this fake smile, you know, and they're just like super polite, but it's clear they don't want to engage you. So whatever you say to them, they're like, that's nice. Or like, how are you doing? Okay. And they'll like get out, right? She's like that. So she shows up like right behind him, and I'm like, oh great, you know, it's Chantal. So embarrassed. Well, she thinks I'm crazy anyway. She probably thinks I'm hoboed out anyway. I guess you're right, Chantal. Here I am panhandling. That's okay. Maybe it's a lesson in humility for me or whatever. It was kind of funny though at the time. I told you, it's the people that you don't want to see you out there, they end up showing up. So anyway, that's it. I went out panhandling. And that was my experience. It kind of gave me hope in humanity, and it also just made me really grateful that I don't do drugs, and I'm not really out there needing to beg money for drugs, you know. And that's it. I just thought I'd share the story with you. And I wanted to say hi to you guys because I haven't been around very much. I've been just super busy, you know, but I'm trying to show up here sometimes, and I'm going to do more videos about autism and things like that. And people ask me questions on my Facebook page, and I want to answer them publicly when I find that it might be useful to people. So anyway, hi everyone. I hope everything's going well for you, and thanks for your support on Patreon to those of you who are. And thanks for listening to me. God bless, and I'll see you next time.